we can perform some more operations with the help of the deform tool. So if I select this object, so we have this tool called as vertex sculpting. So the sculpting is basically painting on the surface. So we can actually set the brush size for the sculpting, and we can set the sculpting mode. So we can select the smooth sculpting. So it will just smoothen the surfaces of the sculptings. Then suppose I choose the move sculpting mode. So we can actually move all the vertices of this 3D object, and I can just select the smooth surface mode. Then we can smoothen the surface. So these tools are used to edit some 3D models. And also we have this option called as dynamic mesh sculpting. So here we can sculpt on the whole mesh. With the help of the vertex, we were able to sculpt only the vertices, but with the help of the dynamic sculpting mesh, we can actually sculpt on the mesh itself. So something like this. We can sculpt on the mesh, then we can go back to the vertex sculpting, then we can make use of the smooth tool to actually smoothen all the surfaces. So like this, we can smoothen it. Also, we have the other tools inside this vertex sculpting. We can make use of the flatten tool to actually flatten the surface. So all these sculpting tools are actually similar to what we have learned inside the landscape sculpting tools. So those are the similar things we can find here. So also we can change the fall off. So right now we have chosen the smooth fall off, but we can just work around with any other fall off mode. It just depends what kind of sculpting you want to do. We can just select the grab and we can just warp it around anywhere we want. So next up we have this called as the smooth mesh surface tool. So it will just smooth all the surfaces of this whole object. So something like this. We can just click accept to perform all the changes. Also, we can go back to the vertex sculpting mode, and then we can make use of any different tool. Suppose flatten this surface. So we can actually flatten this part over here. And as I said, there are many more tools we can just play around with. So this, we can draw on the perpendicular mode, plane, the vertical mode we can draw on. Then we have the W plane. We can actually, there's a custom plane. We can select the plane over here. So I can just rotate it. So now it will just sculpt in a different plane. So this is looking really weird though. I will just undo by pressing Ctrl Z. So as I said, we can just scale all the vertices if I want, and just twist. So as I said, there are many modes that we can work with, but it all depends upon what kind of sculpting do you want to do. Then also we can actually set the strength of the brush. So right now it's just inflating a little bit, but if I increase the strength, it will just strengthen the whole brush itself. Also, we can increase the size of this thing. So this is how it gets affected. So we can just click on show wireframe so that we can see the amount of the triangles are getting produced or getting removed. Just press Ctrl Z to undo all my operations. So those were some of the sculpting tools we can use to actually change the shape of the whole object itself. Let us bring the cube over here. And now we can make use of the lattice tool. So this will divide this cube inside the grid, and the number of grids we can define over here. And now we can actually select any point in the grid, and we can just deform this cube in any shape I want to. So here I can deform it from this side or from this side. I can select this vertex over here and I can rotate it and deform like this. So likewise, we can do the operation of the lattice on this statue. I will select this statue and select this lattice tool. So now this has divided this statue inside this grid, and the resolution of the grid has been set it over here. Now we can select any point over here, and if I just transform this, so here you can see the object is reshaping itself according to the transform that is given to the grid. So like this, select this inner point and we can just set it. So as I said, we can do multiple operations of editing with the help of this tool. Let us bring a sphere in this scene. Just select it. Now let me show you the displacement tool. So the displacement tool will actually subdivide this sphere and it will add a filter to that subdivision. So just press displace. So now it is subdivided it into the sine waves. So I can even set the Berlin noise. So now it is subdivided this sphere, but the type is the Berlin noise. So over here I can just set the displacement intensity. So we have this kind of structure, and I can select the subdivisions, and the random seed is just to randomize this whole structure. I can go to the negative too. So those are just the random number of iterations that it can subdivide into. If I go to show wireframe, you can see over here, so this has multiple number of polygons over here. Again, I can set this to the sine wave and perform some different operations. So I can just change the shape. I can displace it into different shapes. So, and even I can set the random noise. So now the sphere has been subdivided with the random noise. I can set the intensity of this, and the random seed itself will randomize the whole structure itself. So you may ask where this will be used. So suppose I have a simple plane over here. Suppose I created a simple plane over here. Let me just pull this upwards. So now in the material, if over here I have this rock material, this kind of material. So suppose I have this material on this plane itself. So even though the material has some depth in it, but we can actually give some more depth inside this plane itself. So let me first remove this material. And over here, I can make use of the displacement tool, and I can actually reduce the displacement intensity to somewhat like this. And now if I apply the material to this, the same rock, or I can choose the rock material. Just accept. So now we have the more depth inside this with the help of the material and this displacement tool. So again, we can displace this thing and it would look more realistic. So I can just press displacement tool, and instead of random noise, we can make use of the Berlin noise, and we can reduce it or increase it. It depends upon the structure itself. So as I said, this will give more depth in any structure, and it might help to give a realistic look. Just something like this. Let's create a box over here. I'll press complete, and now we'll subdivide this box into like subdivision level to 6, and also the subdivision scheme we'll set it to bilinear because we want to retain the shape of this box. I'll press accept. Now if I just go to the wireframe mode, we'll see that this box has now been subdivided into multiple polygons. We'll go back to the lit mode and we'll learn about this offset tool. So we have already used the offset tool inside the polygon editing tools, but that offset tool was individual for individual surfaces. For suppose we use the polygon tool for offsetting this face or this face or any other face, but this offset tool will be the offset of the mesh on itself. So all of the faces of this cube will get offset. So if I just select this offset tool, and over here we have to actually set the distance. So something like this. So we can create an offset to press create shell. So it will be filling up the gaps that were there before. And if I press accept, I can even increase the steps so that it is subdivided. So now we have this little offset from the edges. So always understand that the offset is related to the edges of that particular faces. So all these edges over here are now offsetted. We can take another example. So in here in this office, we have this little table over here. So again, we can just press offset and we can just like create fillets over here. So offset will just create the fillets of the edges, right? So again, we can take example of this sharp edges over here. So if I just press offset, and notice that it will just add fillets to those edges, something like this. So that was about this offset tool.